Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Rusty Wallace.
I'm Joey Logano.
I'm Casey Kane.
I'm Bubba Wallace.
I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
And this is 3 Wide Life.
Hey there, and welcome to 3 Wide Life. I'm Megan Kolb, and we're excited to share today's show with you. I recently had the opportunity to hang out with NASCAR's professional driver, Michael Annett, at his team shop in Mooresville, North Carolina. Michael has a really cool and unique story that I can't wait to share with you guys. So let's not waste any more time and get right to it. So Michael, normally when we kind of learn the driver's story, we go back and we learn that they did karting when they were really young and, grew up in the racing type family. I know that you have history in racing, but your story is actually kind of cool and unique because you're a boy from Iowa but played hockey your whole life. So give me the story about how you transitioned over from playing hockey and then kind of starting racing later in your career.
Yeah, to kind of tell you how we got into racing later in the career, you got to go back to the beginning. My parents actually scheduled my C-section, a C-section baby, and they scheduled it around the Knoxville races that weekend. We were running locally there with a guy named Mike Brooks, and so they scheduled it around that, and so I was actually at Knoxville when I was 3 days old, and so all my baby pictures, growing up to I guess I would have been 7 years old. I'm at the race shop, I'm at the track, got helmets on, a bunch of Sammy Swindell t-shirts because that's who drove for us later on in the World of Outlaws series. So, my closet's full of racing t-shirts. And then in '93, my dad, he was a car owner, never drove. He only saw the spending money side of it. So, '93, he just, they tried the Busch Grand National Series and it didn't pan out. They were used to winning, and it definitely was a step up, and they weren't used, they weren't in their winning way. So my dad was just done spending money and got out of the sport, and so here I am, a kid thinking he's going to be a race car driver. My heroes are all race car drivers. Dave Blaney, Sammy Swindell, Steve Kinzer, guys like that, and I'm like, all right, what do I do now? And I think I was in second grade, had some buddies that were going to hockey practice after school, and I was supposed to go over to their house, so I just went and watched their practice, and then we were going to go back to the house afterwards. And my mom and I were buying ice skates the next day. I was in the Learn to Skate program and did that for a year, then started playing in the house league, and then got into the travel league and just kept moving up, played some high school hockey, and actually moved to Illinois, played for Team Illinois my junior year of high school, and then led to the United States Hockey League my senior year, moved to Waterloo, Iowa, played there for 2 years, and just kind of, I'm 5'10", $180, not the best NHL stats, they're more 6'2", 220, 230. So had to find a sport where size really didn't matter, because I wasn't the best in school, really wasn't going to probably make it through 4 years of college, and if I did, it was going to be a desk job, and I'm not the kind of guy that can wake up 7 a.m. and go to work for 8 hours, and it's just not my style. So obviously racing was in my blood. It was in my whole family's blood. My dad kind of says it's like a disease. Once you have it, you're not going to get rid of it. So just kept kind of prying at him that second year in Waterloo, and the guys were in one room watching college hockey or whatever game was on, and I was in the other room playing NASCAR on my PlayStation with the steering wheel and pedals out. And so definitely was there, and just kind of kept prying at him and got him sold on it, and was like, all right, well, now you got to go to your mom. She's got to okay it. And she actually, at that time, was kind of all for it. So we honestly lost in the playoffs the first round that year, and a week later we were at Memphis Motorsports Park in a Silver Crown car testing. So for the kids that kind of got to grow up in go-karts and quarter midgets, and the very first thing I sat in was a USAC Silver Crown car. So definitely that was a 2-day test there. I remember Jerry Coons Jr. was there kind of helping and mentoring, and Chris Santucci, who is very popular in the open wheel ranks. So he owned the car, or didn't own the car, worked on the car, and just kind of went from there. We got into full body stock cars at Hawkeye Downs that summer, and then led on to the ASA Late Model Series for 2 years, and then we were in ARCA and trucks that next year, and then straight into what's now the Xfinity Series.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Rusty Wallace.
I'm Casey Kane.
I'm Bubba Wallace. I'm Joey Logano.
I'm Darren Pittman.
I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
And you're watching 3 Wide Live.
Today, I'm hanging out at H. Scott Motorsports with Michael Annett. Michael has a unique story as to how he got into racing. But let's learn more about his racing story and how he decided to trade in the hockey skates for a race car.
So prior to getting in that USAC car, you grew up going to tracks and you had your family, but you had no experience before that.
I mean, really, no. I grew up on, obviously, like I said, racing was in my blood at an early age. So we had four-wheelers, and the first thing I did was, make a dirt track. And, we lived on a lot of land, so I was fortunate enough to have land to make my own dirt track. So, did that on four-wheelers until I broke enough bones, and it was affecting my hockey career. Kind of had to put those in the garage and put them away. So when I finally did get in that Silver Crown car, it had been a while. But, I don't think you can teach how to drive a race car. I think you either have it or you don't. Obviously, you can fine-tune it, and guys can teach you some stuff, but you got to have it in you, have that seat feel that we always talk about, have that ability. I think you're born with that. So obviously, I think that was there, and that's why that first test, that was it was make or break weekend, that weekend in Memphis. If I had nothing, the dream was done, but I think it went well enough that, like I said, led into stock cars.
So you mentioned Sammy Swindell and Dave Blaney and some of the guys that you always looked up to, and your dad being a part of the World of Outlaws. Was dirt ever a thought in your mind that you thought you might want to go dirt racing rather than taking the concrete route?
That was part of the agreement, was I would never ask to race a sprint car or Silver Crown car on dirt. That was part of the selling point, especially to my mom. They'd seen enough people get hurt, and like I said, my dad saw the money side of it, where you pour a lot into it, and unfortunately, what I think is the most exciting racing, they don't get a whole lot of return. There's not a whole lot of risk, reward there. So, I still think the Knoxville Nationals is the best race of the year. I'd go to that before I probably went to anything else. So, I've always wanted to do it, but it was part of the agreement, so I kind of left it alone. But I had the chance to get some open wheel with racing Silver Crown cars on asphalt, and so, and those are some of the most fun races I've been a part of. So definitely, I love dirt racing. Like I said, Eldora, Knoxville, those are tracks that, I think is more of a spectacle than some of the ones we go to.
Do you think growing up having that dirt background and getting to watch people run at tracks like that, it's given you a different perspective at all with your career?
Biggest thing I've taken from those days is, how the drivers treat the fans. I remember sitting there and just waiting for, so that we could leave so they could go wash the car. But there's a line, as far as you can see to get Sammy's autograph, and he sat there and signed every one of them. Those guys that, they're not getting paid like we are, to be there each weekend, but, they give back to their fans because they appreciate why they're there. So, we probably get half the requests in a weekend just because of accessibility compared to those dirt guys. And so it's just really, you got to give back to the people that allow us to do what we do each weekend.
You mentioned Sammy and Jerry Kunz Jr. and some of those guys. Who have been the NASCAR guys that have had an influence on your career since making it to this level?
Well, I think, I mentioned Dave Blaney. He was honestly my favorite driver, when we were in sprint cars, even though Sammy was driving for my dad. I always just had a thing for Dave. He was my guy. And coincidence, when I first moved down to North Carolina, I drove for Bill Davis Racing. Dave Blaney was driving the 22 Caterpillar car. So, your hero is your teammate when you first move into NASCAR. So that was always cool, and went to Dave and did a lot of spotting for the open test back then. You always had to have a spotter up there, and got to listen to he and Tommy Baldwin's feedback back and forth, and got to listen in a lot. But Tony Stewart's been a big help, and kind of taking me under his wing a little bit, and reached out and helped when he can. So there's all kinds of guys, and it's guys that you wouldn't expect, and not necessarily just walking up to them and asking them a question, but you find yourself in a situation where you kind of have to talk to each other. You're killing time waiting to do an autograph signing, or you just talk about your car that day. And so there's not really one guy I could say that's been huge, and there's not one guy that I'd say, man, he didn't want to help at all.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart, and you're watching 3 Wide Life.
Hey guys, welcome back to 3 Wide Life. Today we have professional NASCAR driver Michael Annett highlighting his career in the sport. Now, let's learn about when he realized that he could make it as a professional in racing.
So one of the things that we love to talk about with drivers is what we kind of call their aha moment of like when you realize that everything clicked and that you could actually be a professional in this sport. Do you have that kind of career-defining moment for yourself?
I think it was kind of my first few races in the truck series. We'd run, I think I'd run 5 ARCA races up to that point on super speedways and 1.5-mile tracks, and we were supposed to run 10 ARCA races that year, and one of the trucks at Bill Davis opened up, so we ran 5 ARCA races, and then we were going to run 5 truck races to finish out the year. And went to Milwaukee and ran 6th, went to Kentucky, ran 2nd, and those 2 races gave me the confidence, and went to ORP and was driving up to the lead and made a rookie move and spun out. But just those moments when you feel speed, you make a move on a veteran and then you drive away from him, things like that make you realize you might belong here.
What have been some of the top moments in your career to date?
I think the biggest one is the 2 ARCA wins at Talladega. Like I said, I started out in late models racing against guys that had been racing forever. So, top 5s were huge, but I never, I only was in them for 2 years and maybe ran 12 races a year. So it was tough to come by a win, when you're putting yourself in against that competition at such a, a young start at, being a rookie. So never got a win in those late model races, and then jumped in an ARCA car, and actually, the first ARCA race ran 3rd at Iowa Speedway at my home track and had some good runs there, and then signed on with Bill Davis to run Talladega at the end of the year and won that race. And then, that's when we signed the contract to do the ARCA with Bill Davis the following year, and went to Daytona and won there. So those 2 victories were just really special because they were the first ones, and they were on such a high level. I mean, just winning anything at Daytona is something you're never going to forget.
So you're still young in your Cup career and young yourself. What are kind of the bucket list items for your motorsports career that you still want to check off?
I'd be selling myself short if I didn't say the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, Southern 500. I mean, all the big ones. I'm ready to, get everything in place to put myself in a situation to go win those races. So obviously, we're a smaller team here at H. Scott Motorsports, and we set realistic goals, and we do everything we can to achieve them. We have the right people, right parts and pieces in place, so we just need to put it all together and go achieve those goals, and just keep building this team up and getting more sponsorship dollars to compete with some of the bigger teams, and results are going to allow us to do that, and then we can go try to win some of those big races.
Yeah, so let's talk about how the opportunity to come to H. Scott Motorsports came about. You've got a great teammate, Harry Scott's great. How did you wind up here?
Harry just laid out so many good things. We have our alliance with, we have Hendrick Engines, we have an alliance with Hendrick Motorsports and Stewart Haas. Just all the parts and pieces and I followed Harry. I was in the Xfinity Series for 5 years, and when he joined with, Turner Motorsports and became Turner Scott, and watching those guys win races, and just saw the equipment that Harry brought to the racetrack, it was just very, very, as a race car driver, very appealing. And Harry has a great reputation in the garage, so everything fell into place, and honestly, I don't regret it. We have the people, we have the chemistry. We might not be running as well as we'd like to, but I'm having the most fun I've ever had, just because of the guys that I'm surrounded with, and the team I'm with in general.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart, and you're watching 3 Wide Live.
It's always good to have people that you can lean on and learn from in motorsports, whether it's a mentor or a teammate. Let's learn about Michael Annett's relationship with teammate Clint Boyer, who's had a lot of success in the sport.
How about Clint? You know, he's been a championship contender and has had a successful career. He's not going to have a long time with this team, but what's your relationship like with him? Have you been able to lean on him at all?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, you know, Clint's won races and I think second in the points 1 year. So, you know, he's been around, he's seen it all, been at the bottom, worked his way up, and obviously, you know, Clint knows what he signed up for when he came over here, and you know, everybody just has the same goal here, is to make H. Scott Motorsports better and get the best results we can. So, you know, Clint's on board with that, and obviously anything I need from him, you know, phone call, talk to him in the lounge, anything, he's there for us.
So if you could plan your first win, what track is it going to be at, and when is it going to happen?
Hopefully Friday night. It'll be in the showdown, get us in the All-Star race. So that'd be my first win. Obviously, each weekend, you know, I hope it's the first one. But like I said, we're realistic. But you know, Friday night here in Charlotte, it is realistic to win one of those segments, get ourselves in the All-Star race, which would be a huge boost for this team leading into the 600. So, you know, we'd like to be in that top 20 consistently, and we need to get there first. And when we do that, then you start improving on things, and then you get yourself in the top 15, top 10, and then you start looking at victories.
So one of the things that I had learned about you is that you like to go back and watch footage and video footage, which typically you kind of hear about people doing that, you know, football players and stuff like that. What has that done for you, and how has that helped?
The biggest thing is you learn from your mistakes, or just anybody's mistakes. You know, I think the biggest thing that I find is not necessarily going back and looking at old footage, but looking at in-car footage from the year before, from a guy that won the race, you know, and, you know, there's things that, you know, we see time and time again. The guy that, you know, leads most of the laps has a bad pit stop or gets a penalty and goes to the back, and you just see how he works his way up. You know, a lot of people could just say, all right, you know, that's the end, but, you know, those guys that are champions, you know, always get their way back to the front, and that's the biggest thing you can learn from them.
So I want us to kind of step away from talking just racing and just get to know you a little bit more. One of the things we like to talk about is, you know, like superstitions. When you get to the track for your weekend, do you have a certain routine that you like to have, or do you have a race day superstition?
Not necessarily a race day or a race weekend. I mean, before I came here today, I put my left shoe on first, put my left leg through my left pant leg first. Everything is just the left side first, and obviously that carries into carries into racing. And you know, it's left ear plug, left glove, left shoe when I'm, you know, putting my fire suit on. So, and you know, every one of my helmets has a 4-leaf clover on the back. Got a 4-leaf clover tattooed on my back, and
cool.
a bunch of Irish stuff in my bust. So, you know, I'm very superstitious, but I don't know why, because I could do the same thing one weekend, go blow right front and destroy a car. I'll still do the exact same way the next weekend. So it's just something that gets in your head.
Yeah.
And if it's there, you just have to fix it.
So your parents have to be pretty proud of you now, looking back and deciding to kind of give you the green light with the racing opportunity.
Yeah, they really are. And you know, I'm fortunate enough that they get to go to quite a few races. If my mom, she might miss 4 or 5 throughout the year, and my dad probably makes it to half of them. And I know there's a lot of drivers out there that you know, don't have that. So it's very cool to be able to be there at driver intros and the national anthem, and to have your mom standing next to you, you know, week in and week out. So definitely fortunate there, and yeah, I hope they're proud. I hope I'm making them proud.
So being located in the Charlotte area, you know, hockey is not something that people necessarily eat, sleep, and breathe around here, like let's say in the Midwest. Do you still keep up with hockey? Do you ever play anymore?
I try to. I mean, yeah, I remember a couple of years ago I was trying to put together a street hockey game for all the guys in the shop in the parking lot, and I was like, all right, I'll just go over to the sporting goods store and pick up, you know, a bunch of sticks, because that's what you do in Iowa. You know, there in any store you walk, any sporting goods you walk into, there's a hockey section. Walked into Dick's, and I think they had a couple plastic ones and for kids. So definitely different down here. And And there's a few rinks around that do pick up leagues, and unfortunately with our schedule, a lot of the games are on Thursday or throughout the weekend, and we fly out Thursday afternoon. So still trying to find the right league that's going to fit in for my schedule, be able to play. But have some really good friends at CCM that just sent me a full-on set of equipment, skates to helmet. I mean, all the way head to toe. So need to get it out of the packaging and get it to use.
All right, well, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really cool hanging out in this beautiful shop at H. Scott Motorsports, and we're going to keep up with your career. And thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of 3 Wide Life. Thanks so much for watching and checking us out, and a special thanks to Michael Annett and his team for letting us hang out at the race shop today. If you guys are on social media, make sure to follow along with us, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where we are constantly providing you with updates from the track and the shop. Until your next race, keep living the 3 Wide Life.